Hello and welcome to the Armourer with me, Blue, and today I want to share my thoughts on Teklovossen essentially. We've been asked in a recent comment to, go over Teklovossen, maybe present a deck tech or something like this in the same way I did with Uzuri. Now, to be honest, it will not be as in-depth because I have played Uzuri for quite some time. And I have had quite some time to do the theory crafting and actually play with it. Where with Teklovossen, I have only recently started messing with it. And to be honest, I do not have enough time to put into Teklovossen because honestly I do not think the hero is particularly good in today's meta, and also I kind of have to spend some time on worlds preparation. But yeah. Overall, my thoughts on the hero, outside of he's not pretty good, or like more in depth than that, is that he has some pretty cool tools. He has a pretty cool and new kind of innovative playstyle compared to other heroes, despite some people kind of comparing him to old him and just blocking. There's builds that are going to be focused on boosting a lot, which I do not entirely get. I mean, maybe they are more successful right now or are easier to be made more successful, but at the same time, competitively wise, I feel like if you're going to be playing a mechanology strategy centered around boosting, I feel like any of the other three mechanologists is going to do a way better job than Teklovossen at that. So the version that I've been working on is a lot more centered around kind of blocking and just pivoting late game, or trying to pivot late game in order to win the game. So yeah, for the armor pieces, I'm going with the Cogrix bases. The reason for that is pretty simple. Even though we are not focused on boosting, there are some situations and matchups where we still may want to include a couple of boost cards in our deck. Whenever we do, we may be able to actually make use of these equipments. And at the end of the day, the most important thing for me is that they have zero block on them. The Teklo bases have block on them, and you can technically block with them and then transform them, therefore keeping the value. But I don't feel that's worth the risk of your opponent presenting a card that forces you to block and you not having the resources in order to kind of protect your equipment, and then just losing an entire equipment slot. Which is going to be very devastating for this deck specifically, because it obviously relies on having like evils on every slot. For the weapon, Teklo Leveler, obviously, we want to have these evil payoffs. Now for the evils, I'm running 3 copies of all the blue ones. The blue ones are your best evils, bar none, right? All of them block for 3 and are blue, which is already a very good rate. And then they have very relevant effects whenever you equip them onto another evil. Basically when you equip them on top of a red evil, or when you equip a red evil on top of them. The helm is going to give you +1 intelligence, which is amazing, right? Like if you, during your turn, just get into a situation where you manage to save like 2 cards, you arsenal one, you pitch the other to equip like a centric base head from your banish on top of your soul memory, you get 1 intelligence, and boom, next turn you have like 6 cards that allows you to not only block like the majority, if not the entirety of your opponent's turn, but also have enough cards during your turn in order to present Leveler with Go Again, plus something like CNC, or just directly one of the tanks for like hopefully the overpower ability, making it disruptive to your opponent, making it easier to, block their shit next turn as well. the boots give you an additional action point. This is pretty useful in situations where your opponent allows you to keep your hand, and you can now equip the sentry base legs over this, or this over the sentry base, doesn't matter. But you can do that as your action and then gain an action point back and use the rest of your hand. And having access to cards and combos that allow you to actually exhaust your hand effectively whenever your opponent chooses to just set up and not present attacks for you to block is very important. We have Evil Steel Soul Processor, which is also pretty cool. This allows us to kind of ramp up our like evil equipping process, because we can spend like pitch a blue to equip the sentry base on top of the processor, and this is then going to give us 3 resources back. We can use those 3 resources for Teklo to play our next Evo's instant, then pitch another blue, having 1 left over from the sentry base, meaning 4 exactly, to play yet another one of the evils, and then draw a card and arsenal. So basically, if we have this equipped with this in the bunny zone, we can use 2 blues to equip 2 evils and draw a card, and that's pretty good, right? And one of the most important, actually, especially for the later stages of the game, is the soul controller. It allows us to recycle our tanks, basically, and we only have 6 of them. I'm going to talk about the number of tanks and why we only have 6, but we only have 6. And the controller allowing us late game to recycle them in order to just replay them again and again is going to be very important for just winning the late game, basically. And yeah, as you can see, outside of 3 copies of all the blues, I'm playing 2 copies of all the reds. The reds are very important because they are cheap and they allow you to trigger your blue equipment efficiently, and that's about it. The downside of them is that they are 2 blocks and are reds, which is why I didn't want to play 3 copies of all, because it felt quite bricky. At the same time, right now we have like exactly 20 evils, which is like 1/3 of the deck, which is a good enough rate of evils, right? Like if we run 24, drawing an evil every turn will be a little bit more consistent, but then at the same time, drawing 2 reds and too many reds is also going to be a lot more consistent. So I'm just not doing that, because if you look at like the spread of our deck, I'm running like 30 blues, and for some time I was testing it with like 27 blues, and it did not feel nice, right? Like there were a bunch of situations where I'll have like an all red hand or only 1 blue, and I'll be stuck with like very awkward turns. And this deck is like very blue hungry, especially because you want to be using Teklovossen's ability to instant speed cast your things quite a lot, because it helps you cycle through your deck, reach faster for like the other evils, and kind of enter that late game state as fast as possible. Because I'm playing no boost in the main deck, I'm running CNC, Sink Below, and Fate for Scenes. This is kind of like the non-mechanologist package. To be honest, there is not that much space, or at least I couldn't find that much space to play other non-mechanologist cards. The Fate for Scenes and Sink Belows are here because if we're going to be blocking, we might as well include the best blocking cards in the game. And not only do they block amazingly on rate, they also allow us to filter our deck yet again, which is like very important for us because we want to hit the like 3 and 4 evo mark as fast as possible. CNC and other 2-cost cards fit a very amazing curve of this deck, which is pitch a blue, attack with leveler for 2 or 3 go again, and then still have 2 resources for something like Command and Conquer, allowing you to go for some insane value turns like just 2 cards, which is for like 9 and the CNC effect, right? This is very good value. Unfortunately, the natural cards that Teklovossen runs do not have a lot of 2-cost cards outside of the Evo Sentry bases. But yeah, that's it. You know, here in the inventory, I've put like a bunch of cards that you can kind of like test around with and mess around with and see how they feel. And some of them will be these 2 costs. Next, I'm running a Singularity. It just feels like this is the reason why you're playing Teklovossen, right? Like you just want to pull off the Singularity and just be cool. That's about it, right? In actuality, it's very hard to pull the Singularity off. A lot of the time you want to have all of your blue evils equipped. You want to have your blue evils on top and then play the Singularity. And the reason why this is hard is because just putting your red evils on top of your blue ones gives you a bunch of tempo throughout the game, and you will be doing that. So once you do a move like that, then you have to then have a turn where you have enough resources and space, as in you can do it without taking too much damage or like just straight up dying, to then replace the red one with the blue one yet again, and then draw the Singularity once again in a moment where you have like all of your blues equipped. The reason why you want to have all of your blues equipped is because when you transform into the Mecha Prophet, the Mecha Potent, yes, he has like 6 armor, which is a lot of like additional health, quote unquote. But you have to remember that he can only block once, right? Because he's just one equipment, so you can only like block one card. And a lot of decks are going to attack you a bunch of times with cards that will not be 6 power, and you will only be able to block one of them. Then you also have to remember that he has 3 intelligence, which is low, right? It's not 4. And the majority of your deck costs like 3 resources, so you're going to be needing at least 2 cards in order to do anything. Alternatively, you can only like keep 1 card in order to just attack with him, but then you're attacking for like 6 and you're making them discard a card. I don't know, like it feels like if you play a long game with this, you're definitely going to lose, which is why in my opinion you should play a short game once you equip it, and equipping it on top of all your blues is what allows you to do that, right? Because if you equip it on all of your blues are going to trigger twice, so you're going to get 2 action points, you're going to get 6 resources, which is going to allow you to immediately attack with your Demi Hero twice during that turn, which is then going to like push 12 damage and force them to discard 2 cards. You're going to get in plus 2 intellect, putting you at 5 intellect, drawing 5 cards at the end of the turn, and the collector is going to put 2 cards from your graveyard, which are going to be 2 tanks, for example. Yeah, Terminator tank, the one that forces them to discard a card, is going to put 2 of these in the top 5 of your deck, which means that one of them is going to be the top 5, the other one is going to be the 6th. So you'll be guaranteed to draw into your tank next turn, right? So at that point, the moment you transform into Teklo, you'll be able to push 12, discard 2. Next turn, you'll be able to, at the very least, attack with a Terminator tank and Teklovossen, which is another 9 overpower discard the card plus 6 discard the card. And then the next turn after, you draw into your second tank. And if you manage to draw like 2 blues alongside that, you'll be once again able to go for 9 overpower discard the card into 6 discard the card. Which is 3 kind of guaranteed very powerful turns. Which kind of like the best case scenario, right? And which is like, that's why I think you should be putting your Singularity only if you have like all blues equipped. And once again, that's very hard, right? That's very Christmas landy. Now let's talk about the tanks because they're our primary win condition. So basically, if we have 2 evils, these are just going to be a 3-4-6 with a non-hit effect, which is kind of good, right? It's going to at least take some resources off of your opponent, be it if they allow it to hit or if they block it. Then on 3, it's going to hit and deny them resources. And then on 4 evils, it's going to be like very powerful, right? It's 3-4-9. And we wanna keep this for the end of the game, right? If we can help it, we wanna be pitching these for our like second and third cycle. If not, we wanna be ready to recycle them with the Evil Steel Controller and just attack a couple of turns with them to kind of chip down our opponent. And I think the rest of the deck is basically scrap cards. I'm running Junkyard Dog because it's simply the best on-rate red scrap card, right? It attacks for 7. And I felt like in order for us to be able to actually finish the game, I still want to be able to present at least a little bit of damage here and there while assembling my evils, and Junkyard Dog is going to allow me to do exactly that. The blue one as well. So basically what we're doing with scrap is, instead of having to spend a card from hand in order to equip our rifles, we can simply block with them, then scrap them away and equip them from our banish zone, essentially saving us a card in terms of like economy. The other scraps I'm running is Hydraulic Press. Once again, just a scrap card that does a little bit of damage. I'm obviously then running like all the 0 costs, the Scrap Prospector, the Scrap Compactor, and the Scrap Hopper. These are awesome because they're like incredibly non-committal, right? Like for these you need this and the blue. These you can just play on their own, right? Like they will just exactly what you want them to do, which is just scrap a card. They are neat, like sometimes having a quicken token is going to be good. If you are once again allowed to keep a larger hand, the quicken token is going to help you utilize that hand. Even in smaller hands, the quicken token can be useful, because you can, for example, play something like a Scrap Prospector to scrap something, And usually, in order to equip that something, you then need to like pay 3 for Teklovossen assistant speed thing. But if you had a quicken, you can just scrap Prospector, it will go, it will can go again, and then you'll be able to then like pitch a blue in order to either equip a blue one or a red one, right? And because of scrap prospectors like resource gain, you'll be able to equip even the 4-cost ones with a play like that. Another similar play is Scrap Compactor, which allows you to play your next Evo at an instant speed, which allows you to do this exact play, kind of, and nothing else, where the Quicken Token one obviously allows you to go for something like CNC into Equip an Evo, or like Junkyard Dog into Equip an Evo, and so on. And Scrap Prospector, and the reason why I'm playing 6 Scrap Prospectors is because, in my opinion, this one resource gain allows us, kind of fits our curve, especially with the blue evils, very nicely, right? As we said, in this like Quicken Token scenario, we can just simulate it with 2 blues in hand, right? If we have Scrap Prospector, we can attack with the Scrap Prospector, scrap any of the blue evils, gain 1 resource, then pitch a blue for Teklovossen, pitch a blue to make 4, equip one of the blue evils, and then draw a card. And this is basically a 3-card hand that equips a blue evil and draws us a card, effectively making it somewhat of a 2-card hand. And that's it. That's it. It's just neat. And the last card is like Liquid Cooled Mayhem. I was playing red copies of this card, but once again, as I said, less than 30 blues felt low, so I just downgraded it to a blue. The moment we get to like 3 or 4 evils, it's still going to be great, right? It's like 0 for 4 on a blue is still a good rate. Even when it costs like 1 resource with the 3 evils, we're going to be able to go for like pitch a blue or even a yellow for pistol into Liquid Cooled Mayhem, which is another like 6 damage, which is just on rate. So that's kind of like my reasoning behind it. Behind like the 60 card core that I've been messing around with. As I said, the hero is not particularly good, and the reason why it's not particularly good is because he has very cool tools, but they're not very diverse, I feel like. They do not allow him to deal effectively with enough things. For example, he has no evils that have Arcane Barrier. If you want to be running equipment with Arcane Barrier, that means that you're kind of hurting your whole game plan, because you will not have enough evils, and you will not have like enough sideboard space in order like to like take out 5 cards or like even more of the redundant evils. To put something else, and even if you take them out, then you reduce like the count of evils in your deck, making it even harder to assemble a certain number of evils, because you need to play so many evils in order to like consistently equip them, and because you need so much time in order to do so. The deck is very bad in like producing pressure to force your opponent to like take damage or interact with you or something, or like anything like that. And traditionally low pressure decks are just going to lose to decks that present inevitabilities, and unfortunately this deck does not present an inevitability, right? Like the closest thing you have to inevitability is the Singularity, but it's very hard to pull off. And it only kind of gives you 3 very good guaranteed turns, but if your opponent has like enough life, he may just live through it and then kind of grind you out. At least that's how I feel like. And yeah, like it's going to be losing to Kano, it's going to be losing to Icelander. I do not think it has enough tools to deal with Tormai. right? Like even if you have like bunch of 6 power cards for your attacks, most of your scrappers are not going to be 6 power. You're still going to be playing like 20 evils, which are once again not going to be 6 power. So yeah. Now let's get you like a bunch of cards you can try. As we were talking about Arcane Barrier, some people are trying Visitronic together with Healy's Accelerator in order to obtain 3 Arcane Barrier and still keep like 2 evil slots. For some people, maybe 2 evil slots is a little bit less, so you can maybe just try with Visitronic model only. You can also try with like Arcane Lantern, which unfortunately would mean that you're skipping on the Teklo leveler, but at least you're going to be keeping like a few more evils. Some people have been trying to go with like Rusted Relic in the deck. This seems very bad to me because you have to somehow find this or like more of these copies, like some like quick enough in order for it to matter. Kind of the same thing with Eatersync, which feels a little bit worse even, because you have to spend 1 resource in order to put a steam counter on this, and then you can remove a steam counter in order to give it your Arcane Barrier. But yeah, these are some Arcane Barrier options. Another one is Oasis Respite. It's not like an Arcane Barrier option, but it's something that can prevent arcane damage. And if you're going to be equipping evils at instant speed during your opponent's turn, Oasis Respite can just fit that curve and allow you to also spend some of your remaining resources in order to prevent damage. Another card that can fit this playstyle actually is Brothers in Arms, where, you know, it's a 2 cost, so it kind of fits with your pistol offensively, and then it also fits with like equipping your red evils at instant speed, or even your blue evils at instant speed. Because like a lot of times you have like 1 or more resources floating, and you can use those for like Brothers in Arms to block for. Like that's an interesting idea you can go for. Next I have included a bunch of poppers. Pulse Wave Protocol, in my opinion, is just a popper, right? Like the Evo upgrade effect I'm not too sold on, right? Like I just do not have space in the deck to play it, and the tanks are like way better, CNC is way better, Junkyard Dog kind of helps me progress the plan, and like everything else is blues. But if I'm in a matchup like Dromai and I want to remove like all the defense reactions, Pulse Wave Protocol is definitely something that you can play. Infused Titanium is something that you can play because it's once again a popper that's also yellow. And like yellow is better than red in a resource hungry deck. But if you want some reds, you can go for like Torque Tuned, because it actually costs 2 and kind of fits the curve with the pistol if you want to be a little bit more aggressive. Same with Trotto, who also has boost. If you want just boost, you can go for like Rev Up and Gas Guzzler, which are going to be like the highest power boost that you can play. Unfortunately, they also cost 3, so they do not really fit with the pistol, but if you're looking to be more aggressive and have some boost in your deck, you can look for those options. And another popper is going to be Payload, which is red, but it's also going to be like 2 cost and fit with the pistol. And it's probably like just better than Torque Tuned straight up because it also blocks for 3. Liquid Cooled Mayhem, as I said, 0 for 6 if you manage to get to that point is going to be awesome, but I simply couldn't find space for this card. But like in theory, it's amazing. Erase Phase and Amnesia kind of fit the CNC curve where you can present something like attack with the pistol for 2 or 3 off of a blue, and then attack with like Amnesia or Erase Phase, or even something like Humbo that I forgot to put here to kind of present an on-hit effect that hopefully your opponent cares about. And Demolition Protocol serves the same purpose, right? Demolition Protocol should be amazing against Dash, both Dashes, and Max. So in a situation / potential meta where these decks are like very represented, then Demolition Protocol is definitely going to be very strong against them, together with Erase Phase, right? Like Erase Phase against Mechanologist is very good, especially when they're boosting. And Teklo is not boosting, so he doesn't care. What else is left? Magnetic Protocol, I guess, can be good in the mirror. I simply didn't find myself attacking with this ever, so I simply swapped it for like Hydraulic Press in order to have like a higher rate of being able to scrap my evils whenever I can. Steel Street Enforcement is like very good if you manage to get like 3 evils very fast, or even 4 evils. But the thing is, with how ramp dependent the rest of the deck is, I'm not sure I want to include even more cards in my main deck that are only good after I've achieved like the quote-unquote win condition. 2 interesting cards that I did not quite find space for are Fabricate and Scrap Trader. The problem with both of those cards for me is that they are red. And there's very little space for red cards in the deck, in my opinion, because of how resource hungry it is. Fabricate would have been a lot better if we had like some more blue evils, so that we can like up our evil count to a point where drawing Fabricate plus an evil is going to be semi-guaranteed, so that we can use Fabricate instead of a scrap card like Junkyard Dog or something like this. But unfortunately that's not the case, and kind of like the best line of text in my opinion here is still banish an evil from your hand if you do draw a card. And then like evil permanents you control get +1 defense is like very cool. But then again, I kind of want to use Fabrication in order to progress my game state instead of just like turning it into a 2-block kind of card. Scrap Trader is very good because it says scrap, gain 2 resources for each. The whole idea here is that you can use this scrap 2 evils, one of which blue, hopefully. So you have the 4 resources to pay it, and now you only need to pitch a blue card in order to for Teklovossen in order to be able to play it at instant speed, and you already have like the 4 resources. So it kind of gives you a free blue evil. Now the problem is, once again, where's the space? Like, what do I play this instead of? And I have no idea, right? Like, technically, if I want to go for like more evils and faster evils, I can cut the Command and Conquerors, but then again, Command and Conquer is like very strong, and you still want to be presenting attacks here and there with this deck, instead of just going like full on Evo and just having like 6 attacks in the deck only. And then the other problem is that if you play a bunch of copies of this card, you will get this card. Like, the times I tested this card, I will draw into Scrap Trader without having enough evils in the graveyard, and it will be just very awkward, right? I'll have to somehow find a way to like put it in my arsenal and wait, which is going to be hard if I already have something in arsenal, because I'll have to like keep this in my hand, take damage because of that, and like play my arsenal, which sometimes is not going to be worth it. You then like put the scrap trader there, and then like hope to get the evils on time. It didn't line up a lot of the time for me. And finally, a card that I forgot to add, that sounded very good at first, but I kind of cut it at the end, is Firewall. Firewall is a block 4, and when this defense, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an evil, put it on the top of your deck, otherwise put it on the bottom. So at first I was like, okay, this is kind of a bad mechanologist version of Fate Foreseen, so I'm going to be playing it alongside like Sync and Fate, so I kind of have like 9 defense reactions, and it's also going to help me get into my evils faster, so I can technically maybe play a little bit less evils, but at the end of the day, the reason why this card is so bad, and I didn't even include it in the like cards to mess with, is because it's actually not a defense reaction, so you cannot be reactive with it. You have to just like play it on blocks. And the most important thing is, once again, it's a red, and it's completely dead in your arsenal, right? Arsenaling this card is impossible. I mean, if you do it, you kind of lose the game, or at least lose your arsenal on the spot, because you cannot clear your arsenal, you cannot block with this from your arsenal. And why this is so important is because a lot of the Teklovossen plays are going to be use Teklovossen's ability into equipping something, into drawing a card, making it less awkward, into then like having an arsenal out of the whole deal. And if the card you draw is a Firewall, then you get nothing from the whole deal and feel very bad, which is why I think you should not be playing Firewall. And that's it overall. It's a cool deck. It's definitely a cool deck. I feel like at the very least we need Icelander to rotate out in order for this deck to have a chance. But even then, I feel like there's so much Teklo hate in other classes that it's probably going to be like very hard to actually become meta relevant, right? Like ninjas have an attack that banishes whatever defended on the chain, so they can just banish your evils. Assassins just got a card that does the same. Assassins also have Shed, which destroys your temper equipment. Warriors have Shatter. There's other things as well, I believe. Obviously, mechanologists can force you to block with your temper equipment, and if you do not have something to quickly swap your evils out, you're going to just lose them. And yeah, that's kind of my overall take. But then, like, at the end of the day, the deck is fun, and if you're going to be playing against aggressive decks, then you can definitely make them cry about how much you're blocking, right? Things like Azalea, Fi, or like ninjas in general that have not figured out the tech that destroys your equipment yet. To be honest, like other mechanologists, even though them destroying your temper equipment by forcing you to block with it is a possibility, it's kind of a very low possibility, and you are like a very, very defensive deck. And you do not really depend on Singularity, especially when you're playing against boost aggro. So you can survive with even like 1 or 2 evils remaining at the end of the day. So yeah, that's it. Bye bye.